It's now time to meet our Emperor, and here he is sitting on his royal throne looking very regal. So, well done to you all for getting so far. We're nearly halfway through now, and I hope you're finding positive results and enjoying it. But well done anyway for getting this far. It's well done. Now, don't forget to do your daily 5 minutes. Hope you're keeping this up because it's really good to get these things fed into your subconscious. Gaze at the card, as we've said, and just go through it, letting it soak in for 5 minutes. So who is the Emperor? Well, key number 4. The Emperor to us means reason. So just a quick look back. We started with the Fool, okay, so super consciousness. Then we had the Magician that drew that power through himself, his self-consciousness and his goals and desires, and pushed it down, passed it down into subconsciousness. Subconsciousness was the High Priestess, and she used her massive resources on her scroll, the collective unconscious, to act on the suggestions and the instructions you'd given her. And then we looked at the Empress, and the Empress was pregnant with ideas and the results that came from the High Priestess's resources. So we started looking at answers, possibilities, things popping up in your life. So now we have some ideas of how we can move forward, and we've said that the Emperor now comes into play because he's the consort of the Empress, and he's needed now because she has children. We said she was pregnant and with ideas, and now she's given birth to all these ideas. So we have the Emperor, and now we're going to pass all these ideas through our God-given reason. It's the next bit of our process, and it's a process that is forgotten a lot in many metaphysical systems. They forget about the idea of reason. They get ideas coming into their heads and they work with them no matter what they are. But we're on this physical plane, and we've been given reason for a reason, because we need it to help us guide us along our journey. Hermes Trismegistus, as we've said, had his emerald tablet, and he said, "As above, so below." So we're saying here that the reason can be used on the micro and on the macro level, which is the micro level is you, and the macro level is the external world. So this is an important part of the introduction. On the micro level, we've said that all these ideas that come to us, we must run them through reason. All the feedback we've got in, put it through reason. Think about, is this really possible? Can this really work? I like to give the example of a board of directors in a big company, or any company. Somebody, a designer or somebody on the shop floor comes up with an idea and think, this could really work well, this could make the company's fortunes. So the idea gets passed up to the board of directors, and they represent reason. So they might say, well, no, there's the reason here that this won't work, the reason why this will not work. So then you pass it by. You have to adapt, or you have to reject. But don't use this as an excuse just to get rid of ideas that you don't want to do. Put it through reason and be ready to reject it or adapt it, and then feed it back to subconsciousness or move forwards. Now, these courses are designed to help us all on the very different levels, to help us build our personalities, our confidence, our charisma, to become our own magician in our own rights and build our own wisdom. And that's why reason on the macro level is important, because there are forces in the world that are here to suggest things to you, to the news, the government, whatever it is, the media will suggest things to you. But most people just take these suggestions on board and act accordingly. But what we're saying now is we are magicians. We don't do this anymore. We're going to put all these things through our God-given reason. We're going to make a habit of doing that. We're going to see into the matter of the thing, down to the primer materia that we were speaking of. This is the principle of whatever issue you're hearing. Do I really believe this? Does this really ring true? See behind the veil. Pull the veil away and see what a situation is. And if you don't agree with it, act in the way that you think is appropriate. I suggest acting on your micro level in a quiet way, moving things quietly, moving things slowly, but purposely. Small changes that will lead to your freedom. So this is reason on both levels. Now don't forget what Plato said. He said those who see beyond the shadows and lies of their cultures will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. But we know that we can be those people, we can be those, we can have the wisdom to be the magician. So that's the introduction to our emperor. Next we'll move on to the symbology, the symbolism of the key. So the best thing about the symbolism of the emperor is once you've seen it, it's pretty clear, it's pretty obvious. But the first thing is the Hebrew letter, which is hey. Now this means window. Now we're already in a house because of the house of Beth, which was the magician, and so the self-consciousness. And then we had a door that we came through for the empress as she released all her children, all her ideas, all her suggestions to you. And now we have window. Now, so the idea of a window is you can see out and you can see in. So you can make decisions about who you're going to let in the house, what you're going to let into your own psyche. You can look at what the Empress has suggested to you, and you can decide for yourself whether you're going to take this on board. And what is that? Well, that is reason. That is your God-given reason. The number is number 4. We passed about the fact that the fool was nothing in space and everything at the same time. And then we had the beginning of formation with the magician, it was 1 dot. And then with the high priestess, it was number 2. So we had 2 dots, we had a line. And then when we looked at the empress, number 3, we said we've got 3 points in space now. So we've actually got a triangle. We're starting to make an actual physical shape. We're actually building something in this realm of nothing, which was the fool. And now we've got number 4. So number 4 is a square. And square, to anybody who knows about the mystery tradition, is that physical plane. It is reason. It's formation, it's reason, it's 4 square. Very much like the cube of space or the cube of stone. A stone and square are all the same sort of reasoning factor. We look at the Empress, which was number 3, and then add on number 1 for the magician, and you end up with 4, which is reason. Pretty much for the same reason, because the Empress is putting forth ideas, putting forth suggestions, but you're putting it to the magician, who is number 1, which was self-consciousness. So basically, we're putting it forward for reason, which is 4. 3 plus 1 equals 4. Now, the zodiacal sign for the emperor is Aries. Aries is very much a fighting symbol. And there are 4 Aries symbols, at least on the tarot key. The 2 most obvious ones are the heads on the top of the throne at the front. There's 2 on the back of the throne, and there's 1 little one on top of his helmet. So he's very much saying that he is his fighting ruler. The cloak is another huge, obviously it's red, it's a very Mars thing, red, isn't it? And so again, it's Mars, warlike, And Mars, in astrologically, rules over the zodiacal sign of Aries. So that's all tied up to this royal ruler that's going to look at things and make decisions about whether this is a right thing to follow or a wrong thing to follow. The scepter is very much like the Empress, because she had one as well. So they're saying that they're consorts, so they've got equal scepters of dominion. And this one here has a female sign on the top of it, and it's also on the female side, or the side, the pillar of severity, on the dualism thing that we were talking about. At the top of the staff as well, there's a T, which is part of the female sign. But the T actually stands for the Hebrew letter Tav, and the Hebrew letter Tav is Saturn, a restriction, formation. So the whole duality thing is here obvious to see, because we have the pillars again. This time it's part of the throne, and of course we have the Emperor sitting in the middle at the area of equilibrium. So we have the two pillars at either side, and again the equilibrium is the central figure, which is our Emperor. A chap here who has a white beard and white hair, and that represents the age-old symbol of the Ancient of Days. So it's showing that his wisdom is ruling by reason, and the reason is his wisdom. He's on a stone throne, so then again we said this represents the physical plane. So he's very much the self-consciousness as the magician was. In the background, you've got some mountains. The mountains are made of indigenous rock. Again, it's red rock, so it's Mars. But it's the mineral kingdom. It's showing that in the background there was a rock that was there before it was fashioned by man. So I hope you'll agree that's wonderful symbolism of the Empress, all pointing in one particular direction, and it's of reason, and it is of ruling over whatever has come forward so far from the process so far, particularly from the Empress. So we'll move on now to the next video, which is what the Emperor actually means to you in your life. What do we now know about our Emperor? Well, we know that he's the consort of the Empress, and we know that he came into being because the Empress now has protégés, she has children. And what we mean by this is the ideas that came to her from subconsciousness, the concepts, the notions, the things that we can now work on. There are seeds to develop whatever we want to follow our goal on from this point. We know he's the wise king, he's the warrior. He burns down illusion. He has sight because he's the window. He has sight, he has insight, and he has reason. Reason being the basic thing that we need to work from. Now we know that it's important, and it is a skill to learn, to start looking very deeply into everything. Physical things, yes, look very deeply into them. Try and get to the nitty-gritty. What is it? If you look at a plant, what is his plant? What is it really? Look into the very depth of it. You can do this with ideas, or you can do it with physical things, and you can do it with these notions, these ideas that you come up with. Look deeply into them. Get to their basis. Get to the basic core fundamental part of them, and decide whether you're going to work with them. Are you going to work with them or not? Confucius said the beginning of wisdom is the ability to call things by their true names. And this is so important because you need to be able to find out what something is before you can work on it. All part of the wisdom journey. Feed things through your God-given reason. This is where a lot of people go very wrong. They don't go through this process, and they can end up going in the wrong direction. They can maybe go in the wrong direction stubbornly for years. So this is an important thing. Don't let yourself be sidetracked. Make sure you're going the right way. But when you have made this decision and you know you're going the right way, take firm action. Do something about it. Start the journey. Because everything starts usually in a small way. If you think, well, I need to go to do such and such a thing, this is now what I've decided the direction I'm going in, but you can't think how to get there, do a small action. Think, what would be the first thing I would have to do to start this journey? And do that small thing. You don't even have to worry about what happens after it. Just do that one first small action on the journey. There is no greater suggestion to subconsciousness than somebody taking action. Subconscious thinks, oh, this is what we're doing, okay. And it'll bring forward the next thing for you. It'll make more suggestions for you. So, and life is a cyclic motion, something we'll cover later on. But if you start and you make one firm step, God will help those who help themselves. So that's reason on your personal level, and that is the Emperor card. But just another word, we were talking about the macro in the introduction, and we said, look at external influences, because evil in the world comes from people's disorderly thinking from superficial levels. So try and don't look at anything on a superficial level. This is a skill to learn, it's wisdom. Look beneath it, look into it. Don't just take things on for granted on first sight. There is always more to know. And it's an exciting journey to follow this part of your journey into reason, looking below superficial levels. The tarot will help you with this. It will give you correct insight. And if you want to look through this window, always refer back to your Emperor. Because looking at the Emperor, if you're not sure about a situation, you can ask the Emperor to give you sight. And the subconsciousness will know that this is what you're requesting. So build your skill of reason and sight. And in the next key and in the next video, we'll start looking at insight.